Okay, thank you. Can the students online hear me? First, can you speak? I want to check the sound.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks. You can hear me clear, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Also, you can see the screen. Can you see the session too?
Yes, madam.
Okay, great, thanks. So what did we cover last time? Recap first. What have we done so far? We learned what economics is. We learned the difference between microeconomics, macroeconomics, right? Under economics, we learned what are some of the basic concepts. What are they? Scarcity, opportunity cost, choice, right? Apart from that, we learned about production possibility frontier or the production possibility curve. Then we went into some of the other concepts such as economic growth and how scarcity is represented in a PPF, PPC, how an unattainable point is represented in a PPF, and how factors of production as we improve how the curve shifts. And then when we consider two goods such as consumer and capital goods, depending on how much we spend today, our future will differ. For example, if we spend more on production of capital goods today, we will have a better growth in the future rather than consuming today. Those concepts we learned. Then we learned a little basics about the economic thought process, the history of economics we learned. Can you remember? Classical, neoclassical, Keynesian, right? Neoclassical, those things we just touched upon. Apart from that, we also looked at the economic systems that prevail in the present world, right? The free market economy, which is also called the laissez-faire market structure, and also the command economy, which is sometimes called a centrally planned economy, and also mixed economies, which is really common in today's context. Finally, we discussed positive versus normative statements, right? Positive statements represent what? Facts. From facts and figures, what we can say is represented by positive statement. Whereas, in normative statements, what we are looking at is an opinion, a viewpoint by somebody, and sometimes it is not backed by facts and figures which we can prove. So that's the summary of last week's lesson. Do you have any questions? No question? All right. So we are going into yet another really common, right? This is from the last year's lecture because the edited ones I cannot take, but only this slide is different because last year I did it with another lecturer. Okay. For you, I will upload the lecture that just with my name because she's not joining this time. Other than that, for this, luckily for this lecture, there are no updates, so don't worry. You all were able to see the first lecture slides in your LMS. So, demand and supply. This is where we are going to discuss about how we define demand, how we define supply, how do we come up with a demand schedule, like a table, how do we draw the demand curve from a demand schedule, basics, right? What are the determinants of demand? And what are the factors that will cause a shift in the demand? Now, at this level, at this undergraduate level, higher studies level, these basics are a must. Apart from the basics, you have to have the knowledge to understand application, right? So, majority of this will be relevant to you in terms of different products determinants of demand for different products. That's the most important part. For example, you should be able to, whichever company you're working, whether they are supplying a product or a service, good or a service, you should be able to identify the factors under which your demand will be dependent upon, right? If I say, okay, you're working in a bank and your product category is a credit card, a personal credit card, your thinking pattern should develop to decide what are the specific demand factors that will affect the number of credit cards you are selling or the limit that these customers are going to take the credit cards at. You understand? So that kind of thinking is where we need to get at this bachelor's level, right? Higher study level, not just by hearting like those LMRAs, right? Then we differentiate shifts in the demand along with movements along the demand curve. I will draw and show you how a movement along the demand curve takes place. All right. Also, today we are going to, I don't know whether we can reach it today. We are going to look at the equilibrium where demand meets supply and how the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity is decided. And also, we will look at the role of the price mechanism. Which role does the price play in this, in deciding the quantity? Where does demand and supply operate? First thing. Where does demand and supply operate? In a market. Demand and supply are also called as market forces. So let's start demand and supply session 2. I hope you all are maintaining the notes from last week. Because at the end of the session, usually, apart from the slide, we will have a note with few additional things also. Demand and supply for the day, session 2. All right. So we start off by looking at markets. Okay, what a market is. Write down a market. Traditionally, a market was defined as a physical place where the buyers and the sellers met or meet. But nowadays, it could also be a virtual space. A virtual space. Now, because of this whole physical place versus virtual space, we have recognized that it's a place where we have a group of buyers and sellers. When we have a group of buyers and sellers interacting with each other, we can call it a market. Okay? This we need not write down. Now, demand and supply will usually arise at these markets. Okay, demand and supply will start occur at the market. So we call demand and supply. Let's write down. Since demand and supply originate. These demand and supply originate at a market. We call them market forces. We call them market forces. Okay. So, in a question, if you were asked market forces, that means both demand and supply. All right? That's why I told you. Now, in the market, depending on the behavior of these people, buyers and sellers are usually people, no? Right? Even if it's companies representing, people representing companies, it's people. So, in economics, we are studying the human behavior. Demand and supply also, we are studying human behavior. Right? So, you have to know that thinking has to be there. Demand and supply is not coming from just the market. It's coming from the behavior of the people who interact in the market. So let's write down. Demand and supply is an outcome. Of the people. An outcome of the people who interact in the market. Very simple for those of you who are really new. Who decides the demand? The buyers, the one who wants to buy. Who decides the supply? The ones who want to supply. Supplier can be a producer, can be an agent also. Okay? Keep that in mind. Supplier will not always be the producer. Sometimes that's why we are not using the term producer for the supply. Right? So the end seller is coming for the supply. That you need not write down. Now, when we are talking about a market, we cannot forget how competitive a market is, right? You will learn at one point of time the market structure. Okay, you would have learned already. Perfect competition, monopoly is because competitive, oligopoly. Those market structures you will learn, right? It is within those different market structures that the level of competition, especially between the sellers, is decided. Okay, we have separate market structure where the level of competition is different from one to another. And there, the market demand and supply forces will act differently from one market to another. When we come to market structures, we will discuss those. But I have to tell you, in a competitive market, ideally, the demand and supply forces will act at its best, right? Will act freely in a market where there is a lot of competition, right? That means a lot of sellers, lot of buyers coming together and going into a free market. Okay? When the competition is high, there will be market forces will act as naturally as possible. So, in a competitive market where competition is high, usually in a perfectly competitive market, or maybe in a monopolistically competitive market, the buyers and sellers right, will act, and they cannot really individually take a huge impact on the price, right? If there are so many sellers, one individual seller cannot make a huge impact on the price. So we have to keep in mind that the market competition will have an impact on demand and supply. That demand and supply will not really act. This I want to write down in the note the definition for demand. And it's something important. Demand, under demand we usually define quantity demanded. So quantity demand is the amount of a good amount because it's quantity. Right? It's the amount because it's quantity of a good that buyers are willing and able to purchase. They should be willing to purchase this particular product. Sorry. And also they should be able to meet. From this ability, what we are representing is the purchasing power. The purchasing power. There is no point if somebody wants to buy a product or likes to buy a product, but there is no money to buy a product. Okay? Demand will only be complete with a willingness, that means liking to buy a product, and a ability of purchasing power. That willingness has to be backed by the ability to buy. Okay. Then you all know the law of demand. Okay. The law of demand tells us that there is a negative or an inverse relationship between what? Remember, can you tell me? Negative relationship between what and what? Law of demand between what and what? Huh? Law of demand tells us that there is a negative relationship between what and what? QD, which is quantity demanded, and price. QD, not just demand, quantity demanded and price. Negative, or you can also call it inverse relationship. Now, this negative relationship can also be explained in this way. Okay? The quantity demanded of a good falls when the price of the good rises. That means QD will fall when the price increases. Can also be written as QD will increase when price falls. Both ways. That's an important thing here. When I said QD will fall, QD will increase. What is dependent on what? Always I use something like this. QD will fall if price increases. QD will increase if price falls. What is dependent on what? There is a negative relationship, right? What is dependent on what is the question now? That also we need to understand them. Really? Quantity demanded is dependent on price. Remember that. When the price changes, there's a reaction from QD. Okay? So, QD depends on the price. Very important. Quantity demanded behavior is based on price. All right. Look at points in this slide once again. Right? Here, any issues? Okay. Now, this whole inverse relationship, we can represent it in many ways. Okay. We can represent it in a table which is called a demand schedule. In that table, we will have price and quantity as the two columns. And for different prices, we will have quantity mentioned. That's one. Another way, we may have a demand curve. Something like this. And we may have something like this. Both ways, we are able to represent both ways, we are able to represent the negative demand, the negative relationship between quantity demanded and price. Now, in one slide, we have represented both. Can we just try this? I know these are really basic, okay? But let's try it because some of you may not have the practice. This is given to you. How do you do this, right? And what are the two axes? These are really simple things, but students tend to forget because you did it long time ago. Always the price of a product will come into the y-axis and the quantity demanded of that product will come into x-axis. So can we quickly draw this? Right? Based upon this. So first you need to write down, jot down the points, draw it to an exact scale. Do a quick thing just as a practice. Because if you're given a schedule at the exam and you have to get the demand and supply curve and get the exact equilibrium price and consumer surplus, consumer producer surplus, you should know how to draw this, right? So that's why I'm doing it. I know it's very childish, but sorry, we have to practice it. your graph, let's from a pencil, just don't draw this, but see how we are going to interpret some of the changes along the demand curve. I'm going to introduce you to changes along the demand curve. Look at your graph, right? Take your finger from 2.5. Let's say that the price decreased from 2.5 to 1. 2.5 to 1. Okay, in a pencil, don't draw it, right? How we are going to interpret this? 2.5 to 1. Look at the drop. Okay. When price decreases from 2.5 to $1, what happens to the quantity? How are we going to look at? Easily. 1, our quantity is at 8, right? At 2.5, our quantity is at 2. You see? So, the quantity has demand and choice has increased from how much? From 2 to 8. That means, what is the change in QD? 6. Right? Change in QD is 6. For the change in price, how much? And what is the change in price? 2.5 to 1 is how much? 1.5. So now with this price change, ideally if I note this A to B, right? The movement along the demand curve, which is A to B, had a price change or a price fall by $1.5, which resulted in an increase in quantity by 6 units. In this case, ice cream cones. That's one. If you want, you can write it down, right? This scenario, don't draw it in this, right? You can say when the price dropped from 2.5 to 1, quantity demand decreased from 2 to 8. The movement along the demand curve did not change. The change in price is 1.5. The change in QD is 6. That was the again. Now, similarly, the other way around. If price increased from 1 to 2, okay, C to D point, another movement, but going this way. Going this. Similarly, what is the change? Here, 8 to 4, QD has declined. So let's say a movement along the demand curve took place when price increased from $1 to $2 and quantity demand had decreased from 8 to 4. There also change in price you can recognize from the graph is $1, change in QD. Okay, that's both ways. Now, this demand curve, very important one, we call it is downward sloping. This is the demand curve which is downward sloping. Why? It's going this way, not upward sloping. Supply curve, when we draw it, will be upward sloping. So in an MCQ, they ask you Is the demand curve downward sloping, upward sloping, horizontal, a normal demand curve, horizontal to the quantity axis or vertical to the price axis. Second ask, a normal demand curve with an inverse relationship between price and QD will be downwards. Therefore, a downward sloping curve will have a negative or a positive slope. This is mathematics. There are curves like this, there are curves like this. This kind of curves will have a positive slope, this kind of curves will have a negative slope. Do you know how to calculate the slope? We get the difference between this and this, change in QT divided by change in P. Likewise, we get the slope. Yes. A downward sloping demand curve will have a negative slope. I know you know these things, but we are revising. Simple things you already know. Let's revise. Because when we go forward with equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity, consumer surplus, producer surplus, these small things will matter. So if I ask for the definition, what is the demand curve? It's basically a graph, right, that represents the relationship between price of a good and the quantity demanded. Not just demand, price and the quantity demanded. So, what did we draw earlier? Ice cream, corn versus the price cream, right? That's for one particular product. Now, we should be able to differentiate between individual demand curve of a firm or individual demand curve of a particular product versus the market demand curve. Okay? Because depending on what we are analyzing, for example, if we are in a particular competitive market structure, let's say the perfect competitive market, we will learn about the demand curve faced by a firm against the demand curve faced by the entire market. So we have to differentiate the two, individual versus the market, right? Now, I'm going to tell you how does the market demand curve, right, get formed. Obviously, individual demand curve is the relationship between price and quantity demanded for an individual product or for that particular firm in relation to one particular product. In the market demand, simply what we do is, it's the sum of all individual demand for that particular good or service. If we take the summation of demand for all ice creams, cones in the market, then we get this market. Okay. How do we take it in terms of functions, right? Demand curve. Usually demand curve is in this form, right? This kind of functional form the demand curve will take. The horizontal summation of, right, all the demand curve. So let's say this is QD for good 1, good 2, good 3. Horizontal summation. Horizontally we add together all the demand curves. QD of them. Okay. You understand? How do we get it? In terms of curves like that. So we get this, then for this we draw the demand curve for the market demand. We call it market demand. We can call it DM. Okay? Right. So market versus individual demand has to be understood. I told you movement along the demand curve. We have already discussed this. Movement along the demand curve will happen only when the price changes. Okay? Assuming that all other factors affecting demand is constant. I'm going to add that to this. Okay? Now, when price changes from 1 to 2, 2 to 1, what is the change? An increase in the price of ice cream cones results in a movement along the demand curve. What has changed? Price. But we have to have the assumption here. A movement will take place when the price changes. Assuming that all other factors affecting demand is constant. Can you all write this down? Where we discuss the movement along the you don't have to draw this. We discuss the movements along the previous demand curve. Write it down. We call it ceteris paribus rule. I will write that down also. Other things being constant. It's also called the ceteris paribus rule. Assuming all other things are constant. Okay? Now, we covered movements along the demand curve, right? Shifts in the demand curve. A shift in the demand curve either to the left or the right. A shift will have this stature. We have price, we have QD, 0. Demand curve 1. A shift to the right. B2. also called as an outward shift. Shift to the left, also called an inward shift. Okay, what has happened here? It is not because of a price change. Anything other than a price change will result in a shift in the demand curve. And we need to know what caused that shift. Okay, and why did it cause as an increase or a decrease? Okay. Now, for this, we need to understand what are the determinants of demand. You want to write this down in this slide, shifts in the demand curve. This is against this one. Okay. This is a shift. Whereas A to B is a movement along the demand curve. This is a shift. This is a movement. P2 is a shift to the right. P0 is a shift to the left. Shift to the right is also called as an outward shift of the demand curve. Shift to the left is also called as an inward shift of the demand curve. Okay. See, increase in demand, decrease in demand. Now that B2 shift, right, we call it an increase in demand. The same thing that you wrote down. That the rightward shift, we call it an increase in demand. Okay, just in the same graph, write down increase in demand. The leftward shift, we call it decrease in demand. Remember, not quantity demanded here. Increase in demand and decrease in demand. Now, what are some of the reasons for the shift in the demand? On the other hand, there are also other determinants of demand. Okay? So, if you take, I'm going to teach you something a little additional before we go into this. Now, determinants of demand. means demand is decided by many things, such as price of the product, consumer income, taste and preferences, price of other goods or price of related goods. So on and so forth. Right? That means this is not it. Right? There may be others. These are not the only ones, but there may be others. But these are some of the commonly identified determinants of demand. Price we have already discussed. Right? And price will result in a movement. Anything else will result in a shift. Okay? Right. No need to write down. Now, we are looking at the other determinant other than price, consumer income. Okay? When consumer income increases or decreases, what happens to our demand for the product will depend on the type of product we are considering. Whether it's a normal good, whether it's a luxury good, whether it's an inferior good. But basically, we are looking at two types of goods, normal good and inferior good. Okay? What is a normal good? Usually, as income increases, if the quantity demanded for that product is increasing or the demand for that product is increasing, we call it a normal good. Okay? If the demand is decreasing for the product, when increase in income, we call it an inferior good. Now, there are no perfect examples. Okay? But I'm going to give you some examples. I don't want to be biased. Let's say somebody who wants to include fish in the diet, right? If fresh fish is expensive, they will use sardine tins, right? Am I right? That's one of the examples that we use. But I know people take sardine tins and eat even if you have the income. That's a separate thing. Let's say people cannot afford fresh fish, right? Then they have to go for a product that is affordable, maybe like a sardine tin. As their income increases, will they still eat sardine? No, they will eat fresh fish. So, as income increases, since the quantity demanded declines for sardine tins or salmon tins, that particular product is considered as an inferior good. Similarly, margarine versus butter. That also I know some people use margarine for cooking, right? Even if they can afford butter, they use margarine. That's a separate story. But let's say, but you all know that there's a pricing difference between butter and margarine because vegetable oil based versus milk based, right? That difference is the costing difference. Now, when people cannot afford butter, they use margarine as a substitute. Okay. Then, as the income increases, they are able to shift to butter. Then, margarine becomes an inferior product for them. All right, is that clear? That's like the inferior good. All other goods, right? As we increase income, we will buy clothes, we will buy new shoes, new handbags, new mobile phones. They will all become normal goods. Okay? I want to mention even luxury goods, right? Suppose we buy them as our income increases, no luxury goods, right? Luxury vehicles, luxury, let's say, even those really branded handbags and even spectacles, watches, those luxury goods also fall into the normal goods category because as income increases, the demand increases. Okay? Right. So, depending on whether it's a normal good or an inferior good, the impact on demand will be different. is the situation for a normal good. We have taken again price of ice cream cones and a quantity of ice cream cones. Usually when the income increases, we assume that we will have a more demand for something like this particular dessert, right? So when there is an increase in demand, then with the increase in income, the curve will shift outwards. Increase in demand is represented by this. On the other hand, if ice cream was an inferior good for that person, right? There will be a decrease in demand, okay? And that is represented from this. An increase in income, if he considers ice cream is the and the dessert is a inferior good, and I can go for something like pies and cream, the caramels and those things, then this is an inferior good. Okay, so it's also in the mind of the person. In that case, decrease in demand. Right? Okay, before we go into that, 9:30, you can go to the break and come back. Okay? We'll be done by 11 today, right? What happened to you today? Huh? That- No, it's okay. I'm not no problem. I just it's okay. One can walk in at any time. No problem. Hands up on the nose. Infracellular there. The one's called line myalgia. Taking up until what? We can try to do okay. Then activity also so that you are not getting bored. Our next one is infantile there. Hear me. The ones online. Yeah, back.
We can hear you, madam.
All right, that's great. You can see the screen well, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, can see the screen also.
All right, great. So we go into the next factor or determinant of demand, which is prices of related goods. Related goods means a good that is related to your particular product under consideration as a substitute or a complement. Those are the two basic related goods that we have. What is a substitute? Some product that you use in place of another product. Okay? A product that you use in place of another product. That means either you can now have a cup of tea or you can have a cup of coffee. You won't put both together and have them. Or you won't, if you're normal, you won't have both at once, right? Tea or coffee. Alright? Then either butter or margarine. On your slice of bread, either you put butter or margarine. You don't put both together or you don't mix both and have. Right? So substitute. Another one is a complement. To have one product, you have to have another. Right? If you have seen people using contact lenses onto the eye, you need the contact lens solution. That means we put it in like a liquid and clean it and then put it into the eye. Contact lenses cannot be used solely on their own. You have to even store it in that liquid. Okay? And those days, tire and the tube. Now we have tubeless tire. So it's gone, right? That is not there. Those days, torch and the torch battery. Now they can be rechargeable. So that's also outdated. Another perfect complement. Right hand side sock and the left hand side sock. You have to have both the right, unless and otherwise you have a fashion where one sock and no sock on the other. Right hand side sock, left hand side sock. Right hand side glove, left hand side glove. Right? So perfect complement. You wear a pair of gloves, you need to have the other side. So complement. There are a little imperfect complements also. If you're having milk tea, there has to be milk and tea both together. Right? So things like that. Now, what we consider, for example, if it's a substitute, right? If you're looking at tea and coffee, what if tea is our product? If tea is our product under consideration, other product is what? Coffee. What we consider is price of coffee. When the price of coffee changes, what happens to the quantity of tea? Not demand, quantity of demand of tea. Okay, I will cut it there. It is that's working. It's funny. What happens to the demand of tea? Right? When there is a change in price in coffee, what happens to the demand in tea? Very important. Okay. Our product is tea. Then our what you call the substitute is coffee. What we consider is when the change in the price in the substitute happens, what happens to the demand in tea? What happens to demand in our product? Now, right, if there are two substitutes and if you're taking a rational decision, tell me when the price of coffee goes down, what happens? You are having tea. Price of coffee has gone down. compared to the price of tea. What will you do? Demand for tea, what happens? Price of tea, coffee goes down, demand for tea goes down. Why? Rationally, you are going to shift your demand to coffee. You understand? Similar way, they're just discussing about related goods, and under related goods, substitutes and complements. Substitutes are things like tea and coffee, where you can either have a tea or coffee. Okay. A complement is something where we have together. For example, the contact lens and the contact lens solution. Okay, they complement each other. Now, if the price of coffee has increased, right? What happens? If the price of coffee has increased, then we can see that the demand for tea will go up. Can we write down this relationship, please? Also, we can take complements and use some more examples. Okay, that. So, what kind of relationship are they having? Negative, right? The price of the substitute and the demand of the good under consideration has a negative relationship. Okay. This is a substitute. Yeah. If it's a complement, when the price of contact lenses increases, what happens? These two positive relationship, but I missed out. They have a positive relationship. Yellow, increase, increase, decrease, decrease. Okay. Complements, you have a negative relationship. I missed out on that. In fact, I hope you all can listen. For substitute, there is a positive relationship between price of the substitute and the demand of the good under consideration. Now, if it's a complement, let's say contact lenses and contact lens solution. If the good under consideration is contact lens solution, and if the price of contact lenses increases, then it's too costly, right? Price of contact lenses increases, contact lenses are too costly. Solution demand decreases. Okay, so they have a negative relationship. Complements. Terms of complements, right? There is a negative relationship. Okay. When price of one good, let's say contact lenses increases, demand for contact lens solution, that means the liquid, increases. So there is a negative relationship. Here there is a positive relationship. All right. A few other good examples of complements are electric cars and electricity. Right? Completely electric cars and electricity. You have the car, there is no electricity to charge the battery, you cannot run it. Okay? Electric cars and electric battery. Similarly, petrol cars and petrol as a fuel you will need. Those are good complements that you can use nowadays. Torch and the torch battery and the tire and the tube are quite outdated today. Okay? Write down those examples and substitutes. And complements. Okay. In summary, variables that influence buyers or the demand are also called as determinants of demand. Okay, I didn't miss anything now. The related goods, we are here. So these are some of the determinants of demand. Price, consumer, price of the product, consumer income, prices of related goods, which include complements and substitutes, taste and preferences of the customer. Those will be favorable taste towards the product and favorable taste. That means either I like the product or I don't like the product. Expectation. It could be price expectation. Are we hoping the price to increase in the future? It's not about the present price, it's about the price expectation. If you're hoping that the price in the future is going to increase, what is the demand for today? Increase. Price expectation. For increase in price in the future, you will demand more today. Decrease in price in the future, you will demand less today so that you can buy later. Number of buyers. Higher the number of buyers, right? For one particular product. If you think that the number of buyers for that particular product are going to be high, from the buyer side, okay, you buy it now. Okay, from the buyer side, too many buyers, too much competition, less product you will buy now. If the number of buyers are less, you will leave it, buy later. Okay. So these are some of the determinants of demand. But as I said, there will be other determinants also depending on the nature of the product. Now we're going to do an example, real life example. I know you all are working or you have work, you have some kind of work experience. Even if you don't, look at a company that you know or you have closely associated with. Take a product. Ideally, if it's your company good or service, select one. Then at least write down 5 determinants that you think will affect its demand, will decide its demand. 5 determinants of demand. Write down the example. Okay, and then I will discuss. 5 determinants of demand. Don't stick to these, right? Because now we're trying to write. You can write them because obviously they will impact. But try to recognize other determinants that are common to your product. You all have another class after this today? 11:30? 11:30. That ends at 3 and then you all are done for today. There's another one.
Yes, madam.
All right. Now think, as those determinants change, how will quantity demanded and demand change? Now you know the determinants. You should be able to identify what changes will happen in that determinant, right? For example, consumer income, when consumer income increases, what happens to your product? Is your product a normal good, an inferior good? Think in the lines that we thought. how each of those determinants will affect your particular product. Demand, its price, its quantity demand. Just pass me the tender sheet. You are like, fine. You want that? Or by the name. You have not seen the there yet. Is Kalashini here? Yeah. Can you give me the example? Can you give say an example?
Please.
What is the example of the product?
Product is
Submit, okay.
if the municipal is increased, they are going to go something.
Okay. Okay. What are the determinants?
Based on the municipal income, the price of the product is less, so therefore they buy. The taste of the consumer they buy.
Yeah. Take consumer income separately. Yeah. Then price as a separate determinant. Price increases, but demand falls. That's the nature. Then anything else?
Taste
Okay.
of the consumer is the goals.
So if the taste is more favorable towards them, the sandwich, they will demand more. Okay. Right. Good. Do we have with us Pushpa Kumar? Yeah. Can you give your example?
Okay.
What's the product?
We
Okay, vitamin increase. Right. Yes. Right. So that's taste and preference.
Yes.
Give me another one. Another determinant.
If the price of like that pay is high, then people will go for this local native
Okay. Good. Price increase, demand increase. Any other determinant?
and another thing is okay, the product is high quality and people can believe the project.
Okay.
And you're saying that from the social media and product is good and good values are there.
Okay.
And there is no harmful. So
Yeah.
then the demand will increase.
Good. A new determinant came. Quality. Quality of the product and demand. Right? It is one new determinant to our list. Syrian. Right. the topic, right? Okay, right, okay. Right, yeah, income, okay. Okay. Right. Also, I want to see if it's something that's functional also. Is it connected to weather? Yeah, weather can be a determinant of this particular product. Like ice cream also can have weather as a determinant. When it's hot, we tend to eat more, right? So similarly, hats, if it's really hot, we tend to wear it more. It could be weather can be added. Anything else? Good, good. Right. Do we have it as Radhika or Ka? Radhika? Yes. 31, yes. Okay.
Guarantee for the pay,
Okay.
comparing no
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. A new one. So whether we introduce, then we introduce quality and guarantee. The guarantee that the seller provides about the product. Higher the level of guarantee that they assure, then higher the demand. Good. Anything else? Yes. Yeah. Let me just ask you a question. Is it a particular brand or it's a particular brand, right? If it's a particular brand, anything to be mentioned about related substitute. If it is a particular brand and if it has strong competitive brands, you can mention about price of substitute. That's why I asked whether it's a particular brand or if it's like a hard brand and you sell all sorts of pen, then it's not relevant. But if it's particular brand, you can definitely include the price of other substitutes. Okay. Gautam? Yeah. E. Okay.
Related products, oil prices are increases of demand
Okay.
and taste and
That means it's a that oil is a substitute. Yeah. Okay.
then next is taste. Taste, the quality of taste is increasing, so it give more demand for the
Okay.
expectation. So then we the product system meet the customer requirements, so demand again.
So expectations earlier what we took was price, no? Now customer expectations in terms of requirements. If the exact requirements are met, that is also determinant of demand. Okay? Right. Thanks. We have with us Bandar. Yes. Benefit your product example. Yes. Very good. Government regulation, right? If a particular chemical is restricted, then your chemical will have high demand. What are the determinants? Okay, marketing strategies. Yes, good. Very good. That's something really common. Higher the marketing strategy and the marketing campaign that they carry out, automatically the consumers, the thinking pattern is affected and the behavior is affected. I read another point. Yeah, I told you there's a list that will go on. Not only this, that's the most important thing that you need to recognize. That Menaka, Yes. And you tell? Okay. Yeah. Is it a particular brand that you're selling or several products? Several mobile phones you're selling. Okay, then consumer income in general. Then what else? Consumer income. Yes, yes. Apart from that, for electrical appliances and technology-based appliances, technological advancement. Just like consumer preferences for electrical appliances, when there are technological advancements, right, happening in the society in nature, then the demand is high. For example, those days, we were just using touchless phones. Can you remember numbers? When the technology improved to, we were using the touch phones, I would say, not the touchless ones, right? With the numbers and all. Then when touchless phones came, right? Or when single what do you call single button phones like the iPhone, only one button, right? Touch screen ones came. Then we shifted from those number phones to touch screen phone, right? So the technological advancement created a huge demand for touch screen phone, right? Similarly, those days we had a huge demand for desktop. Yeah? When the laptops were introduced, with the technological advancement, there is a demand impact for the laptops, there is a demand impact for computers. Okay, so anything technology based, any electrical item can include those. Do we have with us Madhushani? Yeah, can you give your example? Good.
Government pensions. We can provide a product based by according that if our price is our demand is high, customer expectations. If customers have software according to the customer expectation, if customer is right, our product is the demanding high. And we can go in number of customers. If number of customers is high, according to the demand.
So, sister, I want to make a small correction. Government paying taxes that affecting the price that you're supplying is more of a supply determinant. Okay, so let's not confuse it. But if the government is levying tax exemptions, and that is held directly by the customer, that way you can say that from the customer side. Okay, so don't get confused, but I like it because it's a service. Right? All right. Then we have here again. Can you give your example? Sorry?
Stations.
Okay.
So that basically the customer base that can be used for both main and women.
Okay.
And the taste and the price is less than the other competitors. So therefore the demand is high for that brand.
Okay.
And also the customer expectation, the quality and the brand, if a new brand came to the market, so customer believing that the compare the price also. Because of that, the demand also high.
Okay. Good. Do we have any other examples of services? Anyone has a service example rather than good? Anyone else has other determinants that you have written down that we didn't discuss? Can you check? Sorry?
Payment plans.
Payment plans. Good. In a bank, Apart from complex, okay. All right, the service is a payment plan. All right, what are the determinants?
Payment plan.
Uh-huh.
Then we offer more payment plans.
Right, more, okay, more options, right? Within the payment plan, you're giving more options, demand will be high. What else? Of what? Apartment. Okay, so actually, it's real estate. Real estate is the service, real estate services provision. Payment plan is one. Then durability of the apartment. What else? High durability, high demand. Okay. Okay, like what? Yes. Other competitors who are doing real estate. Okay. What else? Anything else to add? Yeah, good. Any other points that you would like to add on to our discussion? No? Okay. Right, good. You all have thought through. So, in class and whoever who's in the class online, can I know Subhadura is here? Then we have a Hanapan border. Can you give your examples for demand determinants?
In my case, our demand is the we are selling the paddle courts. We are sport supply sport company, so we are having the paddle courts, and we are doing the in the case of price, we in the market we have fixed price. If we are going to the increase the price, then the our club members will be moved to the other clubs. And if the club members if they have the taste other than the paddle sport, as example, if they are taste change into the volleyball or cricket, then that will also will affect to our sales, because they are moving from paddle sport to other sports. And this in case of the consumer income, it won't be much effect to the in our this sport, because the all the market having the fixed prices. And in case of this, because if we are giving the good packages, then it will be within that we can get the good sales using these packages.
All right. Good. Thanks. Subhadura, are you there? Subhadura, are you there? All right. No problem. Thanks. So we will go back. Okay, that exercise is done. Now we're going into supply, right? There we get quantity supply, log supply. Quantity supply, that is the amount of goods that sellers are willing and able to sell. Once again, willing and able to sell. They should be willing to sell. They should be able to sell it. That means they should be able to sell that product in a market. Ability to sell. Law of supply states that when other things will equal, quantity supplied of a good rises when the price of the good rises. That means positive relationship. Between what and what? Price and quantity supplied. write that down because it is said in a different way here. Yes. Supply schedule is similar to a demand schedule where we have a table. Look at this table. When the price is increasing, quantity falls, not demanded. There's an error in this. Please correct this. I will correct it and upload to the LMS also. Here it's not demanded. It's quantity of coins sold. Right here. Okay. So price and quantity of coins sold is given to you. As the price is increasing, quantity is increasing, positive relationship. Same thing goes here. We need to adjust. Quantity sold. This is sold. Now we are not going to draw this because you know how to draw from schedule into a diagram. Now, demand supply in this case is upward sloping curve, while the demand curve that we saw was a downward sloping curve. So Our supply curve is upward sloping. Upward sloping represents the positive relationship between P and QS. You understand? The upward sloping supply curve represents the positive relationship between P and QS. So the slope therefore of a supply curve is negative or positive? Positive. The slope is positive and we call it upward sloping. Write this thing down. Supply curve is upward sloping. It's a positive relationship between P and QS. Upward sloping positive, slope is positive. Okay, now similarly, market supply versus individual supply. Right? Sum of all individual supplies for all sellers of a particular good. All sellers for a particular good. All sellers of ice cream cones in the market will have the market supply. Similarly, individual supply curves summation horizontally, we get the supply equation for the market. Now, determinants of the supply curve. The supply curve now, S1, S2, S3. This kind of shifts are called shifts in the supply curve. What are the reasons? These are some of the reasons there may be so. Input prices, technology, expectation, number of sellers. Some of the examples. If the input prices are high and costly, supply is less. If the technology is advanced for the production, you can supply more, right? Because factors of production are limited, you use technology, produce more, supply more. Expectations could be price expectation. If the price of the product is going to increase in the future, you produce more today, right? You can sell and get a higher price. If the price of the product is going to be less in the future, you produce less today, you supply less. Number of sellers. If the number of sellers are going to be high in the market, your market share will be small. So you supply less. If you supply more, your goods will be redundant. Nobody will buy it. These are some of the examples. Input prices, technology expectations, number of sellers, so on and so forth. There will be others. Okay? These are not the only ones. Let's say we are talking about a movement along the supply curve. The movement along the supply curve will be caused by the change in price. Can you see? Just like the demand, 1 rupee to 3 rupee increase in the price of ice cream has resulted in 1 to 5 quantity in supply. Price is higher, you are motivated more to sell more. Also, here again, other things affecting supply being constant. We're not going to write down because we have wrote down for demand, but remember. A change in supply curve. I told you, can come to this, come to that. A rightward shift is an increase in supply. A leftward shift is a decrease in supply. So, price represents the movement along. Everything else represents the shift in the supply curve. Now we are coming into the equilibrium. What is an equilibrium? In market forces, market demand and quantity, equilibrium is where the prices come to a stage where demand equals supply. Where the price has reached the level where quantity supply is equal to quantity demand. Let's look at it. So, in the equilibrium, I will show you the graph. Look at this equilibrium. The downward sloping demand curve, the upward sloping supply curve, where they cross together is the equilibrium price. Where they cross together is the equilibrium quantity. This shall be drawn. Quickly draw it because it's basic. Make sure that the price axis, quantity axis is same. Supply curve, demand curve is named by S and D. Equilibrium is named. Equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price is named. Basics. It's a bit childish if you're used to this. If not, you have to thoroughly look at the graph. 0 has to be there. Price of corn, quantity of ice cream cones has to be there for axis. Demand curve, supply curve needs to be named. Equilibrium has to be named. That is an E. Equilibrium quantity, equilibrium price have to be named with EP and EQ at least. Correct? Now, this is the equilibrium, right? But there could be situations where we are not always in the equilibrium. No, we will not always stay in the equilibrium. Anything above the equilibrium price, anything above the equilibrium price creates an excess supply. Therefore, we call it a surplus. Why? At this price, let's say equilibrium price is 2.5 is the price that we are going to buy and sell. At that point, supply is 10, but demand is 4. You see, at this price, supply curve is touching at 10 quantity, demand curve is touching at 4 quantity. That means 10 minus 4, 6 commodities is excess in supply. Therefore, we say there is a surplus in the market. Okay? Right. A surplus is when the price is greater than the equilibrium price, then quantity supplied becomes greater than the quantity demanded. There is an excess supply or surplus. What is naturally to happen? Too many goods supplied by the sellers. So what will they do? Too many goods. When there's too many goods, what will they do? Supply will reduce the price and try to sell it off. So supplies will lower the price to increase the sales, thereby moving towards the equilibrium. So if the demand and supply forces operate in a temporary situation where there is an excess supply, there is excess supply of seeds, what the supplier will do is supplier will reduce the price and reach towards the equilibrium. Same thing, if the price is below the equilibrium price, at this price, demand is higher and supply is lower. We say there is a shortage of goods. When there is a shortage of goods, what happens? Right? The claim that the price when there is a shortage of goods, the ideal fee, what will happen is people will tend to buy even at a higher price, even at black market prices. So they will go towards the equilibrium price. The claim the price very good just to bring the quantity supplied and quantity demanded for that good. Okay, so what we are saying here is we are trying to bring to the equilibrium. If the price goes up, we're trying to come here. If the price goes down, we're trying to come here and come into a balanced equilibrium. What happens to the equilibrium price if there is a shift in either demand or supply? Okay. Now 3 steps to do this, right? You have to first decide whether it's a supply or the demand changing. Okay. Then you have to decide to which side the curve is shifting, whether we are shifting to the right or the left. First, demand or supply, to which side we are going to shift. Then you use the demand and supply diagram and see how it affects the equilibrium price and quantity. Now in this case, the demand curve has shifted to the right. That means demand has increased or decreased. Now we know demand has increased. Hot weather increases the demand for ice cream. Now the reason also knows. Demand curve increased. New equilibrium is this. Okay? This is E1. This is E2. Demand curve shifted. This is the new quantity, new price. What has happened? Quantity is increased. Price is increased. Because of this shift, we have a quantity increase. Price increase. Understood? So, one, let's say, supply curve shift to this time. What happens? You should be able to recognize. Similarly, this is the increase of the decrease. You should be able to find out what has happened to the equilibrium. Where is the change? Is that clear? Now here what has happened? Supply has decreased. And increase in the price of sugar reduces the supply of ice cream. What is the impact? Supply decreased, equilibrium quantity has decreased, equilibrium price has increased. See, you should be able to give a summary like this. Right? When there is no change in demand, no change in supply, those remain the same. Increase in supply, no change in demand, P down, Q up. Draw these diagrams at home. Okay? Increase in supply, no change in demand. But when there are changes in both the curves, there are ambiguous points. Cannot say. Why? For example, I can shift one like this. One can shift like this also. Distance in shifting. Right? So, there will be ambiguous. Cannot say. Okay, you draw and see at home. Okay? All these options, please draw these correct ones. You can easily draw. These you will realize you cannot really say. You can draw, but you can't really say. All right, that's the end. We were able to finish off. Easy lessons, This is some of the easy lessons. Basics. Demand and supply. What did we learn today? What is demand? What is the market? What is demand? What is supply? Demand schedule, demand curve, supply schedule, supply curve, determinants of demand, determinants of supply, move along the demand curve, move along the supply curve, shifts in demand, shifts in supply, equilibrium, equilibrium changes. That's what we learned. Okay? Very simple, and we learned practical example, how to identify determinants of demand of different products. What are the new determinants rather than the traditional conventional determinants? Any questions? Jennifer, do you have any questions? Those who are online? Infants, do you have any questions? Christy, you have any questions? Other Bangman, any questions? Okay, then we'll
No,
call it
madam.
off. Okay, thank you. We'll call it off. I will just keep the mic on mute. Hadapankoda and Rishni Sugandha, just wait a bit. Your first continuous assessment will be a quiz and MCQ. Open book. Open book MCQ, but you have to study. Okay. Most probably we will do it in the 5th week. Today is the 2nd week, 3rd, 4th, 5th. 2 more weeks. Up until 4 weeks of coverage, online quiz. For yours to be physical, for them it will be online, open book. You can have phones, you can have laptops, anything. Papers, you are not getting the same paper. Okay, slightly different paper, so can't copy it. Open book, but open book you have to study and come. It won't be easy. Then and there you can't just go through. You have to study and keep to think and write. All right. Okay, thank you. Anyway, announce it. Then open book, MCQ paper, time constraint also. There are time bound. Thank you. I'll see you next Saturday.